Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where normally I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. However, I had a lot of fun last Friday making a quick video talking about the decks that I was taking to the Friday night Magic event at my local game shop, and I just thought, oh, I could make this maybe like a little semi-regular thing, maybe on Fridays where I talk about decks that I'm building, and yeah, I just thought that would be kind of fun. Unfortunately, I've got no Magic at the shop this Friday. They are closed for unforeseen circumstances. So instead of decks that I have built for this Friday, I'm going to talk about decks that I kind of want to build instead. So just a quick summary. When I went down last Friday, super nice bunch of people at the shop. Very casual, very non-competitive. Because that was something I was kind of worrying about. They'd put together these kind of like trash decks just so I could play, and everyone would be very very competitive, have very like very well-made decks. That's not the way of putting it. Not well made, just very competitive decks. That's the best way of putting it. A lot of dual lands and meta strategies, that kind of thing. But no, it was a really nice crowd. I was kind of like the old man there. It was mostly like older teens and like sort of mid-20s. So yeah, I was kind of the old man there. But no, they were really nice crowd. Didn't get to sort of meet everyone. There's about sort of 10, 12 people, so it was like a good crowd. And I was expecting kind of like one-on-one games, but we actually had quite a few just kind of group games of Modern. And yeah, it's just really nice. And yeah, they were just a really nice crowd. Um, so I mean that's the fact they're a nice crowd means that I want to go back, which means I want to build more decks. I actually, I'm kind of torn on deck building. I love the idea of deck building, but then when it actually comes to it, it just kind of stresses me out a little bit. And I've got like a big box of cards, and the thing is about when you've kind of got no decks, and you haven't been really keeping up with the past 8 years of releases, there's kind of a lot of choices. So I'm looking at my box of cards and just feeling a bit overwhelmed with like new decks I want to build. Because there's decks I definitely could build out of the cards I currently have, but there's also decks I want to build. I say I have sets that have released over the past 8 years. So this week has involved me kind of sorting out cards, and basically I've come down to four decks. These are the next four decks I want to build. I can probably get these about halfway up to where I want them, but I need to buy some singles to actually make them viable, because they're missing like key components. So I kind of want to do mono green Treefolk, I want to do blue red giants, I want to do red defenders, and I want to do black white zombies. And I just thought, like, in this video I'm just going to talk about what I would put in these decks. So when I come to deck building, I think my history of using like pre-constructed decks really influences how I build decks, because normally I just pick a tribe or like a keyword or like a mechanic, and I just build around that. That's typically how I approach deck building. That to me like gives it a sense of structure, and it feels like less hassle. Just to point at a tribe, or we've got three here, or defenders, and just see like, oh, what are all the cards that have defender synergies with creatures that have defender, and just do that, and that just makes deck building easier for me. And I find that easy just to do that and pick sort of like 12 cards, and then just like, right, yep, three each of those, three copies of each, and there we go, we've got 36 cards, and then we do 24 land, and that's it. That's my deck. That's my deck building process. Um, so I say these are the decks I really want to build. So Green Treefolk I've sort of done before, back when Lorwyn was around. But yeah, there's been like some really good cards since then, which I think support. So these would be kind of like the rare Treefolk I would consider. So Dauntless Dowerbark, which has power equal to the total number of forests and treefolk you have. Dungrove Elder is again power equal to the number of forests you have, but it has hexproof. Leaf Crowned Elder is a way of cheating out Treefolk because has kinship. Timber Protector is just a Treefolk Lord. Unstoppable Ash gives creatures you control +0/+5 when they come blocked. And World Observer, this is a new card I don't have in my collection, or a newer card. It's not a new card, it's like 2016, I think. But yeah, when a creature you control with toughness 4 or greater dies, you draw a card, and most tree folk usually have high toughness. So talking about high toughness, one of my favorite cards is Doran, the Siege Tower, who was kind of like the first card to do this whole idea of using toughness instead of power to do combat damage. And for tree folk, I kind of actually want to lean into that. I want to have like all these cards that enable my big fat tree folk to do damage equal to their toughness. I kind of wish this ability would eventually get keyworded because I think it is pretty cool. But then it shows up so irregularly, I don't know if it's worth keywording. But yeah, like Assault Formation, Huatli, Treefolk Umbra, all these things to help the big tough tree folk kind of do more damage, and that works as well with like stuff like Treefolk Harbinger or Bosk Banneret who have high toughness, kind of like the smaller, cheaper like utility tree folk. So yeah, that's an idea I have. And then obviously this is obviously in all the cards. I haven't like got an actual deck list sorted out really for any of these. Yeah, there'd be obviously like other support like spells in here to make it work. Blue Red Giants is another one I really want to build. So we're really still riding that Lorwyn high of going from Tree Folk to Giants. I really like the Blue Red Giants from Kaldheim, like the Frost Giants and the Fire Giants. I think that's super cool. So yeah, just a bunch of giants here that I would probably struggle to fit into a deck together. Agar I think has a really cool ability. Whenever a giant, a wizard, or a spell you control deals excess damage to an enemy creature, you draw a card. I think that's just a really interesting kind of mechanic to have. And then stuff like Calamity Bearer, which doubles all damage your giants do. Frost Titan and Inferno Titan are classics. I've got Inferno Titans already. Yeah, and then Sunrise Sovereign as a giant tribal effect. Cyclone Summoner bounces a load of stuff. Prophetic Titan is just a red-blue giant and has like a kind of good effect. Yeah, so there's options there. And then some support cards for giants. You've got to have Stink Drinker Daredevil. In my mind, you can't have a giants deck without Stink Drinker Daredevil to bring the mana cost of those really expensive giants down. And then Kaldheim obviously has some giant support cards, has Squash and Giant's Grasp. So a good way of like I don't know, just controlling the board, I suppose, until you actually get a giant down. I could do Squash or I could do Crush Underfoot from Lorwyn. I think they're both sort of the same, really. And Invasion of the Giants, I think. I just really want to like play with a Saga. I think Saga's like a really, really cool card type. That's been released in the past few years. I just think they're very cool, evocative cards that have like this great narrative. You go through all the different chapters and get all the different effects. I think they're very cool. But yeah, so Blue Red Giants. So Red Defenders. So this is a deck I have actually built before. It was originally red white, but now I think there's the tools around. I could do mono red Defenders, which like no one expects mono red Defenders, So red actually has a decent number of defender creatures. So Ether Membrane is 0/5 with reach that bounces creatures it blocks, which again no one expects that in red. Rage Nimbus is a big old flyer that can force creatures to attack. And you've got a 5/3, so you force a small creature to attack and block it with Rage Nimbus and kill it. Thermo Alchemist is a way to actually kind of win just by doing damage. And Spite Mare is a card I really, really like. It has like this the retaliation ability we usually see on like red cards, or like red white cards. Whenever it's dealt damage, it also deals that amount of damage to another target. So that's like another way of kind of actually getting some damage out there. Because obviously I'm not going to be attacking in this deck. Well, actually, or am I? Because there's a card here that might enable that. Vent Sentinel is from Zendikar. It's kind of like the core card of this deck because it has an ability where it does damage to a player equal to the number of defenders you control, which is really cool. So I mean that's kind of like that. If this card didn't exist, I wouldn't have built the deck. But yeah, I really like Vent Sentinel. It's kind of fun. And then from Dominaria United, quite a recent set at time of recording. Walking Bulwark and Shield Wall Sentinel, both I think really actually these are the cards that actually make it possible for the deck to be mono red. Because Walking Bulwark enables your defenders to attack and gives them they do the damage equal to their toughness instead of their power, which works out pretty well for stuff like Vent Sentinel or Thermo Alchemist or anything else. And Shield Wall Sentinel is like a tutor for a defender creature, which again is pretty good. And then Lust for War. This is like a really trash aura, but in this it works. So you put it on an enemy creature. Whenever that creature becomes tapped, Lust for War does 3 damage to the enemies to that creature's controller, and it has to attack every turn if able. So you put it on a creature, it attacks every turn. You just, I don't know, maybe just block it with something you can, that can obviously take it, and maybe not kill it in return. And Lust for War will slowly like deal damage to your opponent, and yeah, it goes really well on like small utility creatures. Yeah. So yeah, kind of a weird theme, but yeah, I've sort of played this deck before, when it was red white, and yeah, had a good time with it. And then the last one I want to build is black white zombies. So normally we associate zombies, I think, with blue and black, mostly because of Innistrad, but black white zombies I think has a lot of potential. So here's just a bunch of like zombie tribal effects that I could fit in. Lord of the Undead, I think, is pretty good. Gives all zombies +1/+1. You can get zombies back from your graveyard into your hand. Endless Rank of the Dead just makes a bunch of zombie tokens. Call to the Grave forces people to sacrifice non-zombie creatures every turn. Death Baron gives zombies Death Touch. Lord of the Accursed is another tribal effect. Gives all your zombies Menace. Undead Augur, maybe I'm torn on Undead Augur, just because I think there's potential, like, too many zombies dying and like just essentially decking yourself out by drawing too many cards. And Undead Warchief, I was actually really surprised about Undead Warchief being modern legal, because it's a time shifted card, which is great, which makes it modern legal, and it's, gives a really good effect, makes your zombies cheaper to cast, and gives them all basically unholy strength +2/+1. And I have some versions of this in a modern frame from Plane Chase. So yeah, really happy to include Undead Warchief. So the white version of it, I really like the Amonkhet zombies, that they're black and white. And white, I think, honestly adds quite a bit to it. There's this obscure enchantment from Alara Reborn, Necromancer's Covenant. It basically exiles all creature cards in a graveyard when it comes into play, and you get a number of 2/2 black zombies, equal to the number of creatures you exiled, and gives all your zombies lifelink, which I think is pretty fun, honestly. And then we've got Binding Mummy. Whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, you can tap an artifact or creature. With Endless Rank of the Dead, I think that's pretty fun. You're tapping down like a bunch of stuff every turn. Same with Wayward Servant. Especially whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. Again, with Endless Rank of the Dead, or just like returning zombies back to your hand with from your graveyard, with like Lord of the Undead. Yeah, that's going to add up really quickly. And yeah, and if I really wanted to spend a bit of money, God Eternal Ketra, big 5 mana, 3/6 zombie god cat mummy. Whenever you cast a spell, you make a 4/4 black zombie warrior, and basically she never dies. So yeah, that's some potential decks I've been thinking about of building. So I've got to work out the actual deck lists and actually put an order in for some cards. But yeah, unfortunately, no Magic this Friday. But maybe next. Yeah, I think next Friday should be okay. But yeah, I don't know. Let's what trash are you talking? What kind of trashy modern decks are you building? Have you ever wanted to build and maybe you've never built? What have you built that was better than you thought it was gonna be? Yeah, please put a comment below. I think this is just a fun video to get out on Friday. Yeah, so there we go. Precon Decon will be back with looking at the actual decks. That will be Sunday. 8th edition will drop, and then after, as I said last week, then there's going to be one every day, because we got a lot to get through. So yeah, but this was fun video to make on a Friday morning. But yeah, thanks for watching and listening. Have a great day.